Superman has been a cultural sensation ever since DC Comics introduced him in the 1930s. When Hollywood decided to bring the Kryptonian, along with many other heroes, to the big screen, fans began debating on who's the best actor to play the role, with Henry Cavill being the most recent person to put on the red cape. He's been the topic of many superhero discussions. So, is he the best Superman? Let's talk about it in this video. First up, a history of Cavill as Superman. The DCEU has proven to be something that many fans can't take seriously, but this isn't because of its tone that differs from other superhero films we've gotten used to, but rather due to what goes on behind the camera and in the offices of the studios. The movies are actually pretty great if you keep an open mind and don't expect the standard blueprint that Marvel uses. Henry made his debut as Kal-El in the 2013 sci-fi epic Man of Steel, directed by Zack Snyder, and then made his way to the sequel Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice 3 years later. Money-wise, these two films did pretty well, but as far as the reviews and critics are concerned, let's just say Warner Brothers let the opinions of some angry Marvel fans get the best of them. The Last Son of Krypton then made his way into the theatrical release of Justice League, which was probably one of the most controversial films of this particular genre. No, it's not because we found anything problematic in the movie. It's what's going on with the directors and reshoots. This movie was the beginning of Henry's struggle to maintain his role, because all the decisions being made by the studios. Cameos were either decapitated in Shazam or iconic in Black Adam. Unfortunately, recent news led to the conclusion that Henry Cavill will in fact not be reprising the role any further, coming up with other actors who played the character. Since we're trying to decide whether or not Cavill is the best Superman, let's take a trip down memory lane and see who has worn the blue suit in previous iterations of the character. Kirk Alyn is known to be the first ever actor to play Supes in the 1948 Superman movie serial. Not many know the man by name, or by face for that matter. Imagine being the first person to portray a superhero as iconic as the Last Son of Krypton and not getting any recognition. How unfair. When the question, who is the best Superman, is asked, there are always three names in the argument: Christopher Reeve, Brandon Routh, and of course, Henry Cavill. Reeve played the character in the 1978 film, along with its 3 sequels, and is considered to be a fan favorite. What makes him so great? Well, for starters, have you seen his bone structure? It's like Dr. Fate turned a comic book into life. Many fans grew up watching his movies, so you can say that it created a sort of nostalgic bias. This is similar to why a lot of Superman fans prefer Tobey Maguire over Andrew Garfield or Tom Holland. Brandon Routh was a somewhat more serious version of the character in Superman Returns, and fans grew fond of him in the suit. There was hardly any optimistic music in the film, but people still found him to be a great fit for the role. Let's talk about how Henry is different from the rest. Unlike many superhero films out there, Snyder put in his little signature touch to the character in the movie. Man of Steel is considered to be dark, gritty, grounded, and all the other words you'd use for something that doesn't scream bright colors. We don't really know how you'd react to an opinion like this, but the movie is absolutely gorgeous to look at, both in terms of aesthetics and cinematography. If you manage to not let out a sigh of relief, then hop on the Cavill train. Just a few more steps till you have the answer to the big question. The 2013 movie that kickstarted the DCEU was an origin film like we've never seen before, because it showed Kal-El's struggle to keep his powers and fit in this world instead of mindlessly accepting his presence as Lord and Savior. Batman v Superman was a sequel where the people that once celebrated Superman are now rejecting him. The pure emotion that Henry managed to capture in these two movies, showing sadness, desperation, confusion, and most importantly hope, is what makes him different from the other actors. Other films showed us what it's like to be a god amongst men, while the movies with Cavill showed us what it's like to be a god trying to live amongst men. Clark Kent can't always be portrayed as the invincible man there to defeat his enemies, because in reality, his biggest enemy would have been the world trying to accept him for who he is. Moving on to other actors who played Clark Kent. Films aside, the Kryptonian has also been on the small screen in TV shows like Smallville, Superman and Lois, and more. The most famous actors include Tom Welling, Dean Cain, and Tyler Hoechlin. Brandon Routh also reprised his role as Supes in a CW crossover event, but only for a brief moment. He played Adam throughout DC's Legends of Tomorrow. Hoechlin has been the one that fans have compared to Henry the most, and even called him the better Superman. The CW show is giving the fans the nostalgia and comic accuracy they've craved for. These are the fans that despised Zack Snyder's version of the character, of course. In the first episode, the front cover of the first ever Action Comics issue was brought to life, and this was something that got many people hooked on the series. This Superman has gotten more than one suit, both with underwear outside and inside. Yes, the trunks of these suits are a very important and decisive point in many fans' arguments. At this point, we wouldn't be surprised if people hated an iteration of the character if his hair didn't swirl a perfect S down his forehead. Now for the fans' opinions. Henry Cavill's Superman is something people still argue about, even though the last proper theatrical release was around 7 years ago. We said proper release because 1. No one's going to consider that Justice League film in 2017 in any of their conversations, and 2. Zack Snyder's Justice League never made it to cinemas and was digitally released on HBO Max. Anyway, a lot of people aren't the biggest fans of Cavill and his movies. Fans think the lackluster movies full of forced symbolism, serious tones, and boring storylines are the reason that the DCEU as a whole has no direction whatsoever. Throughout the 3 Snyder films, Superman has been trying to get the attention in his own arc, but was often overshadowed by other heroes like Batman and Wonder Woman. Joss Whedon's take on Justice League was a complete 180 on the character. The drastic change made him feel inconsistent and, overall, a complete mess. If you can't get a Superman movie right, what's the point of running a whole universe? But other people adore Henry and the 3 movies he's been in. One fan being a Pakistani living abroad, related to the character in Batman v Superman for being the ultimate immigrant. There's no denying that Cavill's Superman is one of the most relatable characters out there, but to say the actor did a terrible job is totally uncalled for. You just can't imagine The Last Son of Krypton without thinking of Henry Cavill. Coming up, is Henry the best Superman? The question and reason you're watching this video remains: does the English actor beat Reeve, Hoagland, Routh, and the rest? Sorry to say, we don't have a solid answer to that. It's a very subjective question, and we can't tell you who is or isn't the definitive Superman. But what we can do is help you form an opinion. On one hand, Snyder's films were a little too on the nose with the symbolism, especially in a religious context. A lot of people urge fans to watch the ultimate cut of Batman v Superman because the theatrical release missed out on a lot of important plot points. But the extended version is over 3 hours long. Who has the attention span for that? His sacrifice felt a little too forced and rushed as well. It wasn't as emotional as some fans wanted it to be. On the other hand, Cavill nails the character in every possible way. He's a great actor and truly understands the character for who he is. Man of Steel is the grounded and gritty equivalent to the Batman, and who didn't love that masterpiece by Matt Reeves? The one thing most DC fans agree on is that this Superman would have been perfect if Henry was given a better script to work with in the first place. This brings up another argument debating on whether the Snyderverse is good or not. That's a topic for another video. Lastly, what does the future of Superman look like? Clark Kent in the DCEU will live at some point, with someone else taking the role. Unfortunately, Henry is hanging up the red cape and stepping down from the role as per the new decision given by DC Movies co-presidents James Gunn and Peter Safran. Many fans were devastated because of how Henry was treated in all this. The actor quit The Witcher, which was a huge hit on Netflix, just to continue living the dream as Clark Kent. That dream lasted a solid 2 months and a cameo in Black Adam. If you don't think Henry's the best Superman, you probably believe that the poor guy should have been treated better. It looks like Gunn and Safran are making all the wrong decisions, even though they claim that they're listening to the fans. They even promised creative freedom to the directors, but Patty Jenkins ended up exiting Wonder Woman 3. Hopefully, Superman is still in the picture that's being painted by the new leaders of the DCEU, but this doesn't mean Cavill is completely out of the franchise. When the news was out, Henry also mentioned that he'd love to work with the two on future projects. The S on his chest meant a symbol of hope, but it looks like there is none for this fan favorite and beloved character. And that's all for this video. Who do you think is the best Superman? Let us know in the comments below. As always, leave a like and hit that subscribe button to see more of our content. We'll see you in the next one.